Going back to pack and steal, I packed the gift to heal. A miracle child like John Coffey from Green Mile. Often they crying me down, lie on me now. Sent spies on me now, but time maintain, tongue is tame. Even though I want to say some things, see the Lord save me from some things. My family see that my life is changed. I hold my peace, the Lord fight for me. Got ghost riders, Holy Ghost right for me. You're trying to oppose God's plan.
Good day and welcome to Access Your Inner Wisdom. I'm so excited for this show for today. We will be focusing on family members, friends of loved ones who may need resources or have questions or may be in need of recommendations for places where themselves as individuals, family members may need a resource to go for those people who have a history of illicit substance abuse, drug addiction abuse. Different experiences has caused that, coupled with homelessness. And for Access Your Inner Wisdom's topic today, I'm totally excited to be your host, Chariesse Boyd, and today we have a special guest, and we will be speaking from the topic and the theme and the thought. What doesn't change you can't challenge you. What doesn't change you cannot challenge you. And I'm excited on today to have our special guest with us. She happens to be one of my friends and professional colleagues who I've met, had to be early 2018. So without further ado, I will speak more about her, but I want to present to our show, Melissa Forsythe. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy that you found time in your busy schedule to be my special guest on Access Your Inner Wisdom.
I'm just so blessed to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so happy that you're here. So a little bit about you, I will let our listeners and viewers know. I know you are the esteemed Melissa Forsythe, a force to be reckoned with. Oh. And I'm honored. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but you are born and raised Baltimore, Maryland?
Yes, ma'am.
So I know you for a woman that operates as an outreach awareness advocate for what I just mentioned. And I can't wait for us to dig in, because there are so many individuals out here, right here in Pitt County area and abroad, because this show will go worldwide through our website. And so many times people want to tap in, where can I go? You'll be surprised how many people don't know where to begin when it comes to their recovery. You agree?
I mean, I didn't know until I really had to dig in for my own personal need. Yes. And thankfully I had a lot of people there guiding me once I was ready. But it was challenging.
And I'm excited. I'm excited for you to share a little bit of your story. So let's start off.
Okay.
I know that I met you in early 2018, and I used to hear a little bit about your story when we would work together in our profession. And tell me a little bit about adolescence or younger, but I know something in particular happened at 9 years old. So wherever you see fit to share, comfortable with sharing, to be a help to somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know for myself, I'm a part of 12-step recovery, so I've done a lot of work on healing the child within. And what I found was, I just wanted to belong, and I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And I was introduced to drugs when I was about 9 years old. I found my first drug of choice at 9. And I remember taking that substance, and for the first time, it was like I didn't care if I belonged. I finally felt whole.
Okay. And I just want that to sink in for a minute, because in the quote unquote so-called perfect world, people will say, oh, 9. Yeah. But it's more common than we like to expose. And share with us what you will about the backstory, because typically a 9-year-old wouldn't even know or indulge or engage in such. So how did that come about for you to be 9 and to be able to?
Yeah, well, so I was being babysat by an older brother.
Okay.
He was adopted in. And I was born in the 90s. He looked like he was Kurt Cobain, and I was like, he's so cool, and I want to be just like him. And he found a substance in our home, a prescription medication, and he was taking it from our stepfather.
How old was your brother?
He was 16.
Okay, so he was 16.
He was a little older, and he realized I was sneakier than him because I was smaller. So he was like, hey, sneak in the room and grab this. And if he was doing it, I was doing it.
I got it.
So.
Oh, okay. And that's the first time I'm hearing that. I'm usually multitasking when you're telling your story. So let me start off with a question that I want to present to you.
Sure.
And I'm sure those that will hear and listen to this may benefit from it. So Melissa, what's the difference between giving up and starting over? Because there's a difference, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think that that's different for everybody.
Okay.
Right? For me, giving up was I accepted my fate. And for a long time I did. I accepted that I was going to be homeless. I accepted that I was living in abandoned buildings. I accepted that I was sleeping on dirt floors. And that's all I was ever going to be. And it wasn't until I decided that, hey, like, life could be more than this. And I decided to change not only where I was living, but my people, places, and things around me. Okay. And I needed to just be a new version of me.
Okay. And it sounds eloquent. It sounds wonderful. And we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of how it wasn't as easy as you're speaking about it. And oftentimes, I'm sure we've heard it from generation to generation, excuse me, that people speak about, you know, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom, or, you know, rock bottom. You know, I had to hit rock bottom. So my question to you is, would you agree or disagree that the rock at the bottom rebuilt your life?
That's such a loaded question to me.
Okay.
So many times in my life, I mean, you have to think, starting at 9 years old, I started using. So there's multiple times in my life that I thought I had hit rock bottom.
Okay.
And what I realized, if I didn't keep going, there was always a new rock bottom. However, this time, when I started and I hit that rock, it became a solid foundation to start rebuilding a life.
Wow.
But I had to make that choice, and it wasn't easy by any means. It wasn't glorious, and it wasn't fun every day. But it was solid foundation to create the bones of the structure.
Yeah. So that rock, that final rock that was at that bottom, that's what began to build your foundation. Is that correct?
Definitely.
And I agree with you. Everyone's rock bottom, that terminology may be different for each person. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait for us to get into areas where people can help their loved ones. Oftentimes, I know I've run into older individuals that will speak about their sons or their daughters or their grandchildren, and they have no resources. You'd be surprised how, you know, different generations may not have the connections for resources, and that's why we're grateful for Access Your Inner Wisdom on GPAC TV 23, because we are a public access channel. Just thought I'd say that because I know that this show is going to help somebody. I know it is. So my next question, what can you say to families or family members struggling with a loved one with addictions, and they're not sure where or how to support them? They're just like, I'm listening to this show and it's reminding me of my whoever, but where do I begin?
Yeah, so I can give you the viewpoint from my mother or my family.
Sure.
And what they did was they started Googling like self-help.
Okay, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
What if there's a 75, 80-year-old that's not savvy? I'm gonna let you finish that because they're younger people. Yeah. But when you finish the Google story, let me know about the older person that doesn't have those accesses.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So my mom, she started Googling self-help, and she came across Al-Anon or Nar-Anon.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like for the family members and loved ones of the person who's addicted, and that kind of helped her learn not to be manipulated or be my co-signer. But how to be there and love me even from a distance until I was ready to help myself. And you know, for the older generation that might not be so computer savvy, I'm 35 and I'm not computer savvy,
I'm not either.
so I understand. If you call 411
Good.
on your phone and just when they pick up, just say, look, I'm a family member of, or I'm a friend of, or this is what I need help with. They can point you in the direction to your local Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, or even Alateen meeting. And the Alateen is for the youth under 18, maybe dealing with a parent, a cousin, a sister, a brother.
And that's where they'll find resources. That's when they can take baby steps to get to whatever they need to get to. I can relate. There was a immediate family member that I was in the field, but still.
Addiction doesn't discriminate.
It does not.
It will take anybody that is willing to participate, unfortunately.
That's right. Yeah,
but still will help.
That's right. Help doesn't discriminate.
No, help does not discriminate.
Help does not discriminate. Which area in your life did you have the most trouble being freed from? Like which area where you struggled or was the most challenging for you, from where you can get freedom from?
Okay, so physically, because I feel like mentally, spiritually, physically is all different.
Okay.
So physically, I would have to say going into Walmart and not stealing.
Okay, good.
I remember my first year in recovery, I would not walk into a store or a Walmart without a purse. Like my purse stayed in whatever vehicle. I just carried what I could put in my pockets, my card, money, strictly because I didn't want to be tempted to put something in my pocket, because that's what I did so long to feed my addiction, was I stole and then sold it. Mentally, it was probably freedom of forgiveness. Like I had to learn to forgive myself.
That's deep.
Yeah, because that's hard. Like how can I expect others to forgive me if I can't forgive myself first?
How did you go about that?
I had a great network.
Good.
A great network and community around me that showed me like nothing was named the Melissa, so I didn't create it. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be the last person to do it. However, they walked me through what that process looked like, and they held my hand during it, even when I didn't want them to, because I'm a very much of a lone wolf.
And that is key, because listeners who may be pierced by this information, even when they don't want you to. Even and a lot of my network, they love me despite of myself. They love me when I didn't know how to love myself. And then freed spiritually was just learning that my higher power, my person, always loved me, and I always felt so far from that spiritually, and I had to realize like I was the one that walked away, and I'm the one that can walk back. That's right. So it was different levels. Yeah, you can return. Oh, I love that. Inspirational. What did you do to strengthen your recovery? Now, I heard you mention something about network. Yeah. Support. Yeah. Go into that a little bit. Because oftentimes people feel like they can do this thing alone. Yeah. And you know what? It can be done alone. I've seen it. It's certainly few and far in between, because it's a struggle. I commend you for being smart enough to, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't trust yourself. So you left the pocketbook in the car. You made an effort. But that wasn't me. I didn't come up with that idea. That was from a network. That was from a network. That was from another woman. Tell me about So the first resource I had was I lived in a recovery house. It's called Oxford House. And I lived there with 7 other women who kept me accountable. They said, you will go find a job. We will take you to the grocery store and we'll go together. And I was honest with them, and they were honest with me about my behavior and how I can fix that. They introduced me to a woman who became my sponsor. I'm in 12-step recovery. That sponsor took me through the 12 steps, and she introduced me to other women. And notice I'm saying women more because I am a woman, and I didn't trust other women because they were either going to steal my man or steal my drugs. And when I came into recovery, I didn't understand that the women there were to help me. Wow. I did get some male friendships later on in my recovery. About 6-7 months in, I started having that was the strength. You were getting stronger. I was getting stronger, and I realized that I didn't want to manipulate them, and they didn't want to manipulate me. They were genuinely there for my well-being. But I stuck with women. That was new and different. Yes. Because you came in from a world where you were out there with the vultures, right? You were out there with the
and I was
manipulators.
one.
Wow.
And I can't lie, I come from a sex trafficking background where I could look at somebody and be like, he's gonna spend a lot. I need to knock that girl off and get him before he picks her.
How common is that? Because we like to be hush hush around here.
Oh.
We like to be,
Yeah.
How common is that?
Unfortunately, it's more common than you think.
Yeah.
Especially because I remember the first time trying recovery, I thought I was better then because I hadn't done that. And what I realized was I was doing it without receiving money even. Going to the bar and flirting with a guy so he would buy me a drink. He was still paying for my time. So there's different, like everything else in recovery in life, there's levels to everything. And I had to learn that it's out in the open, and we should probably shed more light on that because it's happening under our eyes without us even realizing it.
And I think we should shed more light, and I'm very happy that you kind of shed a little bit of light on it. We happen to work in connection and correlation with that field. Mm-hmm. So studies will show the high percentage here where we're recording in Eastern North Carolina, in the state of North Carolina, period.
Yeah.
There's a large percentage of human trafficking, and we like to kind of turn our head from it, but here's the reality. That's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's niece, nephew, father, or mother. So we'll continue to work on that, because let me segue a little bit. I met you as a outreach advocate for the community, and you still you have elevated, and you still do that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm right there with you. I'm right there arm in arm with you. And though our purpose, it folds into each other, it's all the same. And what it is, we work in human services.
Yes.
We are here to help people. So when it comes to a parent, we'll say, or a grandparent, or a sibling, or a spouse, or a child, and they begin to notice some peculiar behaviors with their loved one, tell us, give us some examples of what should they pay attention to when they start to see behaviors or suspect.
Each person is different.
Okay.
So if you know a person, and I'll put myself in an example, because you've known me for years now.
Yes.
And I present always this way, right?
Right.
I always have a smile on my face, or I try to. I'm always a little outspoken. I talk with my hands. I'm trying not to right now. I'm always dressed somewhat well. I try to be well put together. And if you see me and my hair's a little crazy, and up in a bun, and it's messy, and I come into work and I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
A little disheveled.
Disheveled. You can see it because the relapse happens well before the drug and the alcohol takes place.
Really?
Definitely. And I've been called out on it with living situations where if my normal behavior is when I clean, for example, and I go from the top of the windowsill and I clean the window, and then I dust everything down onto the countertops, and then I clean the countertops and it goes on the floor, and then I sweep, and then I vacuum, and then I mop.
That's the sign.
That's my normal behavior. So if I go to clean and I'm just like, okay, here's the countertop, it's clean, let me sweep. Like, Melissa, what's going on? Are you okay today? What are you thinking about? Can we have this conversation? I always tell people uncomfortable conversation leads to comfortable companionship.
I like that. Say that again.
Uncomfortable conversation leads to comfortable companionship.
Yeah.
So if you ask me an uncomfortable question, at least I know you care enough about me to see my behavior to let me comfortably talk to you and make you a companion so we can find the resource and the help together.
Well, let me be an oppositional advocate here. You want to confront me, and I'm defensive. Because we'll have loved ones and friends that may become defensive.
Definitely.
What would you recommend?
Still have that uncomfortable conversation.
Okay.
They might be defensive at the moment. I know I have a brother who gets very defensive. I'm one of 7 siblings.
Okay.
And anytime I try to talk to him, he gets very defensive. However, he knows that I know that he knows.
Right.
So he knows when he's ready. I've already had that conversation with him. He can come find me anytime. He's called me at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've answered to talk him down off the ledge and find a resource, because he knew that I cared enough about him to even confront him to begin with.
I applaud that. I applaud that. Thank you for that. So, to those who don't want to be connected to the steps, I think you spoke about the steps.
Yeah.
Now, from the information that I know, my insight is certainly not as in-depth as you. Me being a God-fearing woman myself, me being a woman of the cloth myself, and me operating in the faith-based areas of my life, a lot of the principles, I'm going to say principles because I think you said steps, right? A lot of the steps, aren't a great number of them aligned with faith-based slogans or scriptures and stuff like that? Or kind of, sort of, like forgiveness. I know forgiveness is something.
Yeah, so that's more, I would say, like spiritual principles.
Spiritual principles.
Like
that's
learning a spiritual principle of like honesty, love, compassion.
That's it.
Those types of things. And I'll say 12-step isn't the only way.
That's what I want to know. What if people don't want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people get clean and sober in church. I've seen them go to smart recovery, which is not step based. I've seen people go to IOPs or mental health help, or just find a better circle of friends that aren't using but might be going to school. And how I like to explain it to people is like recovery is a mountain.
Okay.
Right? There's many pathways up that mountain.
Okay.
The gift of life is that our pathways get to cross. So even though I choose to do 12-step recovery and somebody else might do a religious base, we get to cross and we get to learn from each other and love each other.
And we'll have some of those resources scrolling across the bottom of the screen, because it's definitely beneficial. And I'm glad that you shared that, because I'm learning too.
Yeah, I mean, there's no wrong way to better your life as long as you're bettering it.
There's no wrong way.
No.
Now, why do I often hear this terminology, one step at a time or one day at a time? What does that mean?
Yeah. So one day at a time for me, when I had hours clean, right? Just hours. I was like, I couldn't fathom having 30 days. And when I had 30 days, I couldn't think about having a year. That was huge. But I could think about getting 31 days or 32 days. So one day at a time, it's like, I can't, at the beginning, I couldn't look at the whole big picture. I had to look at the next hour, the next day. Let me just conquer today. And then tomorrow I'll try to do better than I did today. And I have a little over 5 years now. And some days I'm like, man, I can't, I get to look forward to stuff because I have some clean time. And I know if I keep doing what I'm doing yesterday, I'm going to be okay today and tomorrow. So I get to plan stuff today, right?
Yeah.
But some days I'm just I get so stressed out that I'm like, can I just make it to 2 o'clock? If I can make it to 2 o'clock, I'll be okay. And then 2 o'clock comes and I haven't used and I haven't picked up a drink. I've called my sponsor. I've called somebody in my network. And like by 2 o'clock, I'm okay. And I'm like, okay, I think I can make it to 4 now.
I love it. So
slow and steady wins the race.
Slow and steady. Everything that you've stated so far, in my mind, I can think of some inspirational terminologies that align. When you said one day at a time, right? Mm-hmm. There's a song. There's an inspirational song that speaks about one day at a time. You said slow and steady
wins the race.
Yeah, and that takes me to another scripture that instantly comes. The race is not given to the swift, but to who endures to the end. But I want to challenge you on something hard right now, because I've been asked this. Mm-hmm. I've had to ponder on this, and I really haven't come up with a good answer. And it's not on the paper. I've heard individuals say to me, why should I celebrate or give praise or give applause to an individual who should not be using illicit substances or be an addict anyway? Why do we give so much attention? Why is that such a big deal? That's something that they're supposed to be doing anyway. quote unquote living clean and sober, because that's the morally human way.
Yeah. Sorry, that just took me back.
Yeah.
Because that is, I can see the viewpoint. We give praise. Let me reword this.
Take your time.
When we're teaching a child how to walk,
Okay.
and they stumble and they fall, do we help them back up and celebrate it that they tried?
We do.
When a shooting star goes across the sky and we make a wish for that shooting star, aren't we celebrating the star that is falling? So us as human beings in the human race, if somebody is trying their hardest, shouldn't we try to help them along the way?
So what you're saying to us is, and that takes me to a place where I should have did my homework, because now that takes me to the question of, let me define addiction. Let me define it, because addiction doesn't only come in substance form.
Oh no.
Illicit. You know, I've seen it. I've lived on the earth long enough to see food addictions. I've lived on the earth long enough to see prescribed medication addictions, prescribed meds. I've lived on the earth long enough to see behavioral addictions.
Tattoos, shoes.
Fetishes of things.
And it can be anything. For me, addiction is anything that takes me from my natural state of feeling and being somewhere else. So a lot of times when I overeat, I'm stressed. And I just need or that's something I can control. So I'm going to eat or not eat. If I'm feeling down and I just think, oh, you know, spending money might help. So I go and buy another pair of shoes that sits in my closet and I never wear them. Addiction doesn't discriminate on the person, and it doesn't discriminate on what it is. I have close friends that will start a book on Sunday. And they cannot put that book down and go to sleep until it's done. So they're going to a different reality.
So would you agree or disagree? Are there such things as healthy addictions?
I think certain addictions, maybe. Anything done overly
is not
going to be good.
Because everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation. So if you go to the gym for 5 hours a day, okay, you look great, right? Your body's ripped. You might be able to fit into jeans a little bit better, but aren't you hurting your muscles? And when do you relax? When do you get to restore yourself? You know, it's, or clothes, right? I want to look nice. I want to look presentable. But when am I using my credit card and getting into debt instead of building a credit score?
Yeah, addictions. What doesn't change you can't challenge you.
That's right.
So let me ask you a few more questions. What are some of the most difficult things that you've encountered in your process of recovery?
So we kind of touched on stigma.
We did. We can do it again.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the stigma on self. Like, you can think whatever you want about me, right? But if I'm the one going to sleep with myself and I have to look at myself in the mirror when I brush my teeth, for a long time I had to brush my teeth while I was in the shower because I could not stand looking at myself.
That's right.
Wow. So the hardest part for me was like the forgiveness of self, and then putting the stigma down of once an addict, always an addict.
That's a stigma.
That it is, and it's the hardest one to break from me, against me.
Okay. Good answer. Another question. What gives recovery meaning or makes it worthwhile? What gives recovery meaning or make it worthwhile?
Connection.
Connection.
The connection.
Healthy connections, yes?
Healthy, like non-toxic, like people loving me and I get to love them strictly for myself. You know, in this process of recovery, I had a son. I had a
yes,
I have a child.
I was going to talk about that, but come on, bring him in.
He turned 4 in July.
In July.
July 29th. And that's my broke best friend. You know, that is my end all be all. That is the new purpose of my life. And if it wasn't for the connections I made in recovery, I would not be sane. right?
Basically.
It takes a village to raise a child. A village raised me early in recovery because I was a child when I entered. And now they're helping me raise my child, coming to me and saying like, hey, you probably need to go somewhere by yourself because I can see that he's stressing you out a little bit. Why don't you take a walk? I'll watch him for you.
Okay.
Or I had a friend just recently teach him how to ride a bike.
Nice.
Because like I want to bubble wrap him. And he's wild.
Yeah, let him fall.
Let him, and
ride a bike.
And
he's just gonna get back up again.
That's right. Just like we talked about earlier, he's gonna fall, but he's not gonna give up. He's gonna start over and do it again. And it wasn't because of just me. It was because of the network and the connections that I built.
Positive supports. That's so important.
Definitely.
And even for those that I'm going to say it eloquently, but I'm sure there's a simpler way. It's so important to reestablish positive relations.
Definitely.
It's so important. And people will say, well, what difference does that make? It makes a lot of difference because no man is an island and no man stands alone.
No.
I'm appreciative for you sharing that. I think I have another question for you. What would you say to someone, if we didn't go over this already, what would you say to someone who thinks it's not possible for them? They like,
I can't cuss. Sorry. What would I say to somebody who said it was not possible for them? Give me 6 months. Give me 90 days. Try something different for 90 days. And if your life hasn't come even 1 or 2% better, your pain and misery will always be on the street.
But that's easier said than done.
Definitely. It's definitely recovery from substance abuse of any kind, drugs or alcohol, is not easy. And unfortunately, if everybody got it, we would fill stadiums instead of church rooms. And we would fill big, huge MGM grant places instead of little rooms and basements for meetings. It's not
That's
easy,
something.
but it's worth it. And if you try to do something different, even if it's church, recovery, finding new friends, going back to school, just doing something different, try it for 90 days. And drugs and alcohol, they're not going anywhere, unfortunately. It's a war on drugs that we've been dealing with since the 80s. They're not going anywhere. They're still going to be on that corner. You can always go back to it if your life doesn't get better. But I guarantee you, if you give it an honest 90 days,
and utilize all the tools,
and
which
utilize
is
the
system,
tools and the support system, and you give it a fair shot, it might not be exactly what you want it to be, but it will be better than it was 90 days prior.
And the reason I appreciate what you're saying, I applaud you for that. What I get from that is certainly all positives. In addition to that, everyone is a unique individual. Everyone is wonderfully and uniquely made. So remember, you spoke about that mountain.
Yeah.
And we all want to get either up the mountain or get to the mountain, and there's different avenues. So with that being said, because people have different personalities, different characteristics, came from different backgrounds, have different levels of pride and stubbornness, there has to be multiple ways to get clean, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
There has to be other ways. And with that being said, you spoke about Oxford House. And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm gonna give you the mic on that, is that a worldwide resource?
It is.
Tell me a little bit about that, because that's important.
Yeah, so Oxford House started in 1975 in Maryland. We now have over 300 houses in just North Carolina. We're working on 4,000 houses nationwide.
Are we outside of the United States of America?
We are. We're also in Ghana, Australia, Europe.
Wow.
So we're a worldwide organization. And that's where I started. That's where I find my love. However, we always say it doesn't matter who has the bed.
Wow.
What matters is that we help each other. So there are other recovery houses that might be a little bit more structured than
love what
Oxford
you're
House.
saying. I did not know.
Yeah.
I just came from Ghana. I would have went to that Oxford House and took pictures.
There's a few of them.
Oh,
It's
my
amazing.
goodness.
Yeah.
I would have went. Had we touched base, I would have took pictures in front of it.
I would have loved that because I've never seen them, but I've always wanted to.
I love this. Yeah. I learned about Oxford House decades ago.
Yeah.
When I was living in New York, I learned about Oxford House.
We have quite a few out there.
And you can walk in with nothing, just be able to follow the rules. And we'll have that information scrolling on the bottom of the screen as well. Moving forward, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you so
much.
much.
Let me say that while you can hear me. Let me say that while you can yet be in the land of the living. I'm so proud of you. I remember you. I remember connecting with you in our professions, and I remember seeing you. And it wasn't until I saw tidbits of your bio that I was like, oh wow, you had just started your recovery? I didn't know. And here we are. I met you before COVID.
Yes.
So we're like 6 years in, you and I.
Almost.
And I'm so proud of you. I remember when you had your son.
Yeah.
I remember when you were receiving your elevations in your field of work. And I'm just very proud of you. And that's beautiful for me to see, you know, you journey as you saw me journey.
Yeah.
And we're gonna keep on keeping on. It's so important. I'm proud that we're like partners when it comes to community advocacy, community awareness, verbalizing any and all resources that we have. You know, we've done some things together many times. You've come over to my place of business of work. I went over to your place of business.
Quite a few.
And it's because it was for the purpose of us helping, being helpers one to another for others.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I was raised by a family that always taught me it's not always what you know, but who you know, right? So like if I have a resource and you have a resource, but they're different and we know each other, I can now share that resource with you.
Right.
And vice versa. And I love that this platform is here because now you get to share all of that because you've been around collecting these resources and now it's like you get to share them with everybody.
How about that?
And it's not just substance abuse because we do struggle with so much.
So much.
I just love that you are on this platform and
Well,
you've
me
grown.
too. Yeah. And you know what doesn't change you, it can't challenge you.
No, not
it's
at all.
it's a struggle. We all have different challenges. That's what I'll call them. I'll call them challenges, and I
love
welcome
it.
them.
Today I do. I know for a long time I always said I played that martyr card of like, why me, why me?
Yes.
And then today it's, why not me?
Yes.
Because this is going to teach me and help me grow.
That's right. That's right. I'm so glad that you shared a little bit about your journey with us, and that you had some of our viewers and listeners from GPAT TV 23 get some information, some substantial information, and certainly you'll leave us to allow your contact to scroll across the screen as well.
Will.
And what I want to say, do you have any questions for me before we end?
I do. I was going to ask, as an advocate, as a supporter of, what is something that the person that's in recovery or in early recovery, what can we do to kind of show our support and be a part of? Because really at the end of the day, we just want to be a part of again.
I'm glad you asked me that. There's a million answers to it. I will give a few. Because this is a public access channel, and because that information is freely given and freely received to become a part of it, that's one vein. The second one is word of mouth. The third one is arenas and forums like this, and networking with one another for us to tell someone else. We've completed shows here of Access Your Inner Wisdom, and I've went back to my messages and my messengers, and we've received information. How can I get this? How can I get that? Are you going to have a part 2 to that? And who knows what's going to come out of your journey and your testimony. And I look forward to it. Some of the annual events that I see you at Town Commons, when you have open houses, when we have events where vendors can come out and spread the word. But most importantly, for us not to be ashamed even when we're off duty, because I'm like that. I'll see someone when I'm going to the store. There's people out there that you may see at red lights, signal lights, or stand on the corner. I don't always have funds because, you know, we're living in a app and plastic world now.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you what I do. I carry around pamphlets and business cards, and I pass it to them, which is 24-hour hotlines. Your information is in the trunk of my car. My information is in the trunk of my car. And they may say, I wanted money. If it's meant to be, they'll stumble across that and utilize it. And I think us getting out, being more visual and showing ourselves more, that would do good. Because people like me and you, we may gravitate others, you know. I'm not that. I look younger than my real age, and I'll be able to meet these individuals where they're at. And that's what it's all about sometimes, meeting people where they're at.
That's right.
I remember yesterday, just last night, I was in Walmart, and the older father was trying to get his young daughter, she had to be less than 7, she had to go to the bathroom, and he wasn't comfortable with her, but of course he couldn't go in. I stopped what I was doing, I showed him my ID, and I said, I can take her. Because even things like that, you have to be careful. Out of that, I found out that he was in need of one of our human resources. So what I say to that is, let us be bold individuals reaching out to help someone along the way. Does it make sense?
Each one teach one.
Each one teach one.
I like it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to ask me or close with?
Just know you're worth it. You know, all of us coming from a life of homelessness, and not every day was easy, like we talked about, but you're loved, you're prayed for, you're in the care of. We're waiting for you if you're waiting for us.
Yeah.
And if there's anything we can do, please contact me. My information will be at the bottom. I'm always here to help, or at least listen if I can't, and help you find the resource.
Thank you, Melissa. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And to everyone that has watched, gained some insight, inspiration, and encouragement, we want to certainly thank Melissa Forsythe for sharing with us a bit of her journey, reminding us that what doesn't change you cannot challenge you. Please remember, we are Access Your Inner Wisdom on GPAT TV 23, and we will be back again for your benefit and for the help and lives of others. I'm your host, Chariesse Boyd, and I bid you a good and safe day.
Going back to pack and steal, I packed the gift to heal. A miracle child like John Coffey from Green Mile. Often they crying me down, lie on me now. Sent spies on me now, but tide maintain, tongue is tame. Even though I want to say some things, see the Lord save me from some things. My family see that my life is changed. I hold my peace, the Lord fight for me. Got ghost riders, Holy Ghost right for me. You're trying to oppose God's plan.